Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to Dr.Monkey, where we laugh together and cry together, but hopefully take something away to treat each other a little better. Here's some interesting stories. One about a Karen who demanded a flatbed for her little cake, yelling and insulting OP, but then this happened. Oh, sweet karma. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Story 1. Long ago, way back in the before time, I worked for one of those bulk warehouse club stores. My trade was simple. I was a wrangler of the Silver Buffalo, and dutifully retrieved the old ghetto strollers I did. The job in and of itself wasn't the worst I'd ever had. I got plenty of exercise, got to be outside, and generally didn't have to interact with the members. Calling them customers was taboo, for the most part. The thing about this job is that the company I worked for had a reputation for being cheap. Thusly, more often than not, I was on my own when out in the parking lot. Big whoop, you might say. You gather carts. You should see how hard my job is. Yeah? Well, shut up. This is my story. I digress. The reason that being alone is bad is that this store didn't have just one kind of cart. Heck, they didn't even have two kinds of carts. You had your classic garden variety cart, the kiddie cart with a plastic facade to make it resemble a car, the electric scooters, which weren't supposed to leave the store, but did with the alarming frequency, and finally, the bulky, hard-to-control flatbeds. On top of that, whenever someone needed help loading their haul into their minivans, I was the guy they called. You know, because the greeters, cashiers, and managers were all busy. As you might expect, one man cannot be in multiple places at once, and as a result, on some of our busier days it became incredibly difficult to keep enough carts in the vestibule. Our story begins on one of these days. So there I was, chugging along like a good worker drone, struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of people coming in to buy cheap bulk goods. Sure enough, I get a call on the radio. Manager. Shh, OP. We need you to help some members load their purchases. Shh. Me. I'd love to, but I'm barely able to keep up out here as it is. Manager. Shh. Just do it, OP. You can afford to stop gathering carts for 2 minutes. Shh. Ron Howard. You couldn't. I didn't want to push my luck, so I complied. After spending 20 minutes loading people's purchases, because one person needs it, suddenly they all need it, I came back to find my vestibule a near ghost town, save for a single line of carts that was half gone, and the Karen. I won't waste time describing this specimen. She was a prototype. You know what she looked like. There she stood, menacing, tapping her foot with such speed that it could make any metal drummer green with envy. You could collect the contempt in her gaze in a jar. Karen. Where are the big flat ones? I blanked for a moment. Me. I'm sorry? Karen. Ugh. Mexicans. For the record, I'm very much white. Karen. Where are the flat ones? Me. Oh, you mean the flatbeds. I'm sorry. I was just helping some other members load their merchandise and haven't had a chance to. Karen. Oh my God. I don't care about your excuses. You have one job, and a trained monkey could do it. I just want this lady to get out of my face, so I don't fight it. Me. Sorry, ma'am. I'll grab one from the parking lot for you. Karen. You'd better. So I go back out to the lot and find a whole line of flatbeds sticking out of the corral blocking several parking spaces. I push them all into the vestibule where she waits, huffing about how I'm wasting her valuable time. I separate one from the rest and bring it to her. Me. I'm terribly sorry about the wait, ma'am. She leers at me with utter malice. Karen. Unbelievable. And with that, she dismisses herself into the store, where she will be someone else's problem. I shake my head and return to doing what I'm paid to do. About 15 minutes later, I'm returning a line of carts when I see her pushing her flatbed to her Miata, and jawing about stupid people, most certainly referring to me, on her cell phone. You know what she had bought? What she had insisted on having a flatbed for? A cake. This wasn't even like a big cake. It was one of those little circular numbers. Anyways, I witness as she continues to yammer on about how I nearly ruined, I tell you, her precious baby's birthday party, when one of the most glorious things happened. Still clutching her phone with those high-low scoop claws of hers, she attempts to pick up the cake with one hand. The plastic topper pops off, and she spills the cake all over her undoubtedly expensive designer outfit. Seething with hot rage, she locks eyes with me. Karen. You! Get me another cake! Now! Me. Terribly sorry, ma'am. I've got one job, and these carts won't gather themselves. Cart-beating grin plastered on my face as her shrieks faded into the distance behind me. I've had my share of nasty customer interactions before, but this one really took the cake. I loved your descriptive detail of these fascinating creatures we call entitled parents. Scientists say we have a lot to learn about this special creature. Still confused as to why we have wild animals roaming the streets. Story 2. I'm in my 40s, so I've got over 3 decades of crazy selfish antics to share. Like ruining weddings, ruining holidays, telling kids they're adopted, breaking up relationships, getting people sacked, demanding money. You can't earn more money than her kids. Selling stuff that ain't hers, and of course, lying with almost every breath. The list goes on. I'll start with one of my earliest memories of her entitled behavior. For some light backstory, my aunt is the eldest, let's call her Ruth, of 5. Second aunt, who is significantly entitled, but manageable. Dad and 2 brothers, except my youngest uncle, Kev. The rest worship my EA. They will believe anything that comes out of Ruth's mouth. Or they did, until one by one they were on the receiving end of her BS. EA has 5 kids. She does not discipline her kids, all entitled brats. The sort of kids who constantly fight and shout, cause problems wherever they go. Plus, the lying, the stealing, roughly similar ages to me. It's early 90s and it's my 10th birthday, I think. Grew up kinda poor and I knew my youngest uncle got me a Super Nintendo. This was a huge deal for me. My first gaming console. I was beyond excited. Party at mine on Saturday morning. I opened the door for my EA and her broods around 10 a.m. Her kids came crashing in, pushing me out of the way as I chatted to my aunt. My lovely cousins went into the living room and started unwrapping my birthday presents. I protested to EA, but she said her kids are helping me, and how kind her kids are by helping me unwrap. I remember her telling them to get a broom. I remember watching my cousins ripping the box of my SNES and fighting over who got to set it up. These animals were fighting, pulling each other's hair, biting one another. I was that skinny, quiet, nerdy kid with glasses, so I just kept my distance. My mom shows her face and shouts, "Why, the presents have been opened before the other guests arrived," especially my youngest uncle's, who was bringing a camcorder. EA told my mom I just went crazy with excitement and ripped everything. Also, that I hit one of her kids and he was wailing in the corner. Obviously, my mom knows how well behaved I am, but EA is a master manipulator, and told my mom I'd go crazy and show off in front of my cousins. I tried to tell my mom the truth, but EA cut in with, "Let's call your dad about your lying." Even at that age, I knew my dad would believe EA, so I was put on timeout by my mom because EA suggested it. I sat in a corner silently crying whilst watching my cousins fight over my presents. I remember EA telling my dad what a rude host I was, how I was hitting my cousins and not listening. To my horror, my dad tells me to face the wall, and that he didn't raise me like that. Uncle Kev turns up about 20 minutes later. and goes ballistic as to why I'm on a timeout in my own birthday. I loved my youngest uncle. There's a reason why he's my favorite uncle. He was cool. He was about 20. He had tattoos. He gave no craps. And best of all, even EA knew not to cross him. I remember Kev handing out backhands to my spoiled cousins to get them to stop fighting and shut up. I remember his hug and him sitting down and playing Mario with me. Best 10 minutes of my birthday. That 10 minutes made up for the rest of that crappy day. Uncle Kev had to leave soon, and things went crappy again. I had the control pad ripped from my hands not long after, so I pretty much just sat and watched. The adults were in the other room most of the day, and EA would come to watch us like a hawk every now and then. Obviously, she would always ask me to do something like, "Go get Cousin 2 a drink," or "Cousin 3 can't find your bike, go get it out for him." And also stuff like, "What moisturizer does your mom use? And what does she put in her hair? How much was that dress?" This bit may not have happened on this day, but my EA would always ask me questions about my mom's products and other similar stuff that I had no idea about or understood. About an hour later, EA announced it was time to leave. I see my 12-year-old cousin packing away the gaming console and holding it like it was his. I heard him ask his mom if he could take it. I tried to take it from him, but I had no chance. I told EA he's taking my game. EA tells me that my dear cousin is only borrowing it and that I was such a bad host how her children got slapped because of my lies. I ran and told my mom, then I ran to the front door to stop anyone from leaving till I got my game back. My mom came to the rescue this time. She just calmly took the SNES from my aunt, who had it tucked under her arm by this point. I should add my cousins were breaking things almost instantly. They'd already broken their Sega. EA was saying how I said my cousins could borrow it, as she didn't see me play with the darn thing and obviously I didn't like it. That Uncle Kev got it for all of his nephews to share, blah 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 blah. I see my dad coming in, and I just grabbed the box from my mom, ran to my room, and hid it. I can't remember the rest of the day. I remember my dad later telling me off for getting my cousins into trouble, and how rude I was to my aunt. That's one of my earliest memories of my aunt's antics. Should add that this event won't even make it near the top 30 worst antics. Fast forward 30 years, and everyone's kind of sick of EA's antics, including my dad. Everyone except her kids. We're all civil, but we keep our distance. I'll be sure to write more about Crazy Ruth. My blood's boiling just thinking about the things she said and done over the years. Quick little story. After Uncle Kevin turned up and gained control, he did indeed pull out his camcorder. The footage starts with me playing Mario for the first time, and then it pans around to show my cousins, all sat down with tears in their eyes and Kev narrating. These are the worst kids he's ever witnessed. Then shows my EA Thunderface. I saw this clip around 2002 in Uncle Kev's house. He made it into a DVD with other funny family clips. Our entire extended family would laugh at that clip. That DVD mysteriously disappeared after EA's family visited one Christmas. I'm so sorry for what's going on, but I tell you, it sounds like your Uncle Kevin is the only sane person as well as your mom. But why would your dad tell you off and get you into trouble on your own birthday? Because that entitled psychotic woman and your evil cousins literally tried to steal your birthday? And yet you try to stand up for yourself and get punished. I don't get it. Story 3. A few months ago, I worked as a paper boy. As the name suggests, my job was to deliver papers in the morning, usually from 6 to 7 a.m. Prior to the event I'm about to describe, a woman had been standing outside her house to smoke at around halfway through my round, usually staring at me as I rode past on my bike. I had never seen this woman before. It was important to know that I was delivering paid papers, so there were specific houses to deliver to, instead of delivering to the entire road. On the morning of the event, I had woken up as usual, dragged myself out of bed and onto my bike, picked up the papers and started to deliver. Everything went as usual until I reached the woman I described earlier. This time, she approached me. "EM, Self-explanatory. Entitled Mother. Kid. Do I need to explain? Me. See above. The EM approaches me and my bike as I walk up to the house beside hers to deliver a paper. EM. Hey, you got any spare Daily Mails? A British newspaper tabloid. Me. No, I've got the exact amount I need. No more. EM. Well, that's bad. Me. I don't see how. EM. You don't suppose I could just give you a couple quid and you could just give me one? Quid equals pounds, basically the equivalent of bucks in the US. Me. I'd lose my job, no chance. You could always pop down to the newsagents to get one. EM. Don't you understand? I need one now. Newsagents is a half-hour walk away. Me. So? I'm not losing my job, so you don't have to walk for half an hour. EM starts to get angry. EM. Listen, my son loves reading his mail, referencing to the Daily Mail newspaper I mentioned earlier. My car's screwed, and I can't be bothered to walk. All you have to do is give me one, and you get 2 quid for free. Me. Seeing as I get decent pay, above £15 per week, I think that won't be necessary. EM begins to walk towards my paperback. Me. Hey, back off! EM is shouting now. EM. You've lost your chance at 2 quid. It was your choice, and you threw it away. As with the rest of the street, she's woken up her son. She and I argue for around 30 seconds with nothing said of note, until her son comes to the doorway. He looks around 4 years old, which is most definitely not suitable age to be reading the Daily Mail. Kid. Mummy, where's my breakfast? EM. Red-faced by now. Go inside, now! Kid looks like he's about to cry and reluctantly trudges inside. Me. Nice job. EM. Shut up! Me. Have a pleasant morning. I cycle away and finish my deliveries around 10 minutes behind my usual time. I know usually people want some sort of righteous ending or she gets arrested and sued for X amount of money. But literally, nothing happened after this. All I got was a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the day, and all she got was an irritated child at 6 a.m., which she most likely deserved. Well, make sure she doesn't steal someone else's paper and you get blamed. The funny thing is, I know exactly what she looked like. Probably hair up in what used to be a bun, greasy or fried hair, bad teeth, plushy bathing robe over a PJ. Well guys, that's all for today. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story's about OP, who saw a lady who got tasered for trying to snatch a woman's face mask and give it to her child. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you next time on Dr. Monkey.